thing. Let's go.
Yeah.
What, can we go over here? Oh, look, there's ice cream there. Can we go buy an ice cream?
Don't show this video to anybody.
That's what I...
I'll mute that. When I do the DVD, I'll mute that part.
Thank you.
I can do that.
Although I love them dearly.
I'll keep that in. Go out of his mouth.
Well, where is it?
I don't think it's going to happen. Just got you.
I know that
There's that architecture cruise. Looks kind of cool.
With Sunday on top of that.
Oh my god. That is just unbelievable.
We had someone who started at the blood center and said, boy, they... Houston.
What a view.
New York, welcome aboard. Who else raised your hand over here? Where are you from?
Houston.
Houston, Texas. Welcome aboard. How about you guys? Austin, Texas. Ooh,
I'm not saying Des Moines.
Fight. No? You're not rivals? Aw, we could have like a whole West Side Story thing going on. Okay, so who is from outside of the country but inside the planet? Known around the world for its architecture. You guys are about to see that architecture from the absolute best angle possible from the river. Now Chicago's about to open up to you in a really pretty opening shot, so I'm going to pause for a few seconds, give you a chance to take your opening shot pictures, and then we'll get going. Building. I like to save all of this stuff at the mouth of the river for the end of the tour because I'm telling you, all of this is going to make a lot more sense once we've already learned about everything else. Irish and German. And even to today, Chicago has the second largest Polish-speaking population of a given city in the entire world outside of Warsaw. We have over 1 million people of Polish descent within the greater metropolitan area, myself included. Anyone else here? Before the invention of the interior metal frame, the taller a building wanted to get, the thicker its base walls had to be. It was a type of construction called load-bearing construction, where you had the weight of the building supported by the walls themselves, so it limited how high a building could get. So when the weight could be transferred from those old walls to the new metal skeleton, and then buildings could get lots higher. So Chicago had the world's first skyscraper in the 1880s called the Home Insurance Building, a grand 11 stories tall. Now our first skyscraper is much taller than that, the one directly on the right with the vertical lines. This is the NBC Tower, built in 1989, designed by Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. It gives us a really good interlinked lines looking at it straight on. Now that we've passed by the building a bit, you see our actually big upside-down L's? And there are a few moments where I'm going to have you look back at buildings for different effects from different angles. Those are flying buttresses. Now, think about it. In a modern building like that already has an interior steel frame for its support, set back from the river a little bit. It says Chicago down on the bottom. It's one of my personal favorites. That one is called the Tribune Tower, built in 1925. It was designed by two Americans, Howells and Hood, who actually won an international contest with that design. From over 250 designs, they won the whole contest with that one. Now coming up on the right, directly after the bridge, this white building is one of Chicago's favorites and most famous buildings. Well, they purposely light up that building on all sides across the street so the whole thing shines like a city should look like. So imagine that, everybody, a perfect city. What would that city look like? Well, we have another example of it. Diagonally to us on the left, the building that has the 4 Tempianos on the top corners and the Belvedere at the center. That is called the Jewelers Building, built in 1926. And you can tell that that is the Beaux-Arts style, or the Beaux-Arts style, meaning the fine art style, because of its symmetry and the richness of neoclassical straight lines. Very form follows function. Once we get in front of it, you see it actually even looks kind of two-dimensional. It's so straight. That is an excellent example of the modernist style of architecture. It's called the IBM Building from 1971. And it was actually designed by a famous pioneer. If you look up to see why we call them the corn cob towers, they do kind of look like corn cows, don't they? Now, Bertram Goldberg gave his buildings a curvilinear facade for a couple of reasons. First of all, He said that he wanted to stage a revolt against the straight line that his teacher had loved so much. And it's kind of fun to think about the history of architecture. He let the students build it, so by getting his buildings curvilinear facades, he thought that it might naturalize his style. Another one of my personal favorites is coming up on the right, and just a heads up, I do have about, I would say 4 or 5 personal favorites. I'm allowed that many, considering that I do. And this is another one. I love these beautiful old converted warehouses that line the river. This one on the right is the old Reed Murdoch warehouse from 1913. The style you can see especially in the curvature of the windows way up on top. It's called Romanesque Revival. Now, one of the things I like so much about that building is that it looks like it would be symmetrical, doesn't it? Okay, take a closer look, everybody. Has they finished off yet? You can't really tell, can you? All cracks down here in Chicago, the city that works. On the right, just before the bridge, is an old coffee warehouse from 1913. Notice that it has a base, shaft, and capital. 3 distinct parts, like a story has a beginning, middle, and end. That 3-part structure tips you off to the Chicago school style, pioneered by a man named Louis Sullivan. Those guys are Louis Sullivan, merchant princes of Chicago's history. A very noble thing, isn't that? Until they're referred to by David Letterman as the Pez Hall of Fame. Which, alas, is quite accurate. Now, this is the Art Deco style that the first building was harkening back to. You can see that, first of all, in those uninterrupted vertical lines, just like how the first building had. Those are meant to emphasize the height of the building to symbolize man's soaring potential in the industrial age. Also, in an Art Deco building, you're going to find everything about it looks very repetitive, almost machine-made. And that's because the Art Deco style is all about glorifying industry. You get a much better sense of how enormous that building is. That building is absolutely gigantic. In fact, if you'd like to know of a building that's somewhat comparable in floor space, think of the Sears Tower. That old bridge is called the Kinsey Railroad Bridge, built in 1907. We do not use it anymore, which is why it is in a perpetually up position. On there, out of sight, out of mind, so stay dead. Now, that wouldn't have been a problem necessarily, except that the natural flow of the Chicago River is right back out into Lake Michigan, which also happens to be where we get our drinking water from. So by polluting this river so terribly in the 1800s, people were actually poisoning their own water supply, resulting in the deaths of thousands of people at the end of the 1800s from diseases like typhoid and cholera. Not a pretty thing, so something had to be done. Who here thinks we stopped polluting the river? Now, they basically dug this new canal about 15 feet lower than the bed of the river, which averages about 25 feet deep, so they dug it about 15 feet lower than that. Ran it right alongside the southern branch where we're headed right now. Then they installed a series of locks to kind of push along and maintain what would now be an unnatural flow. And then they just let gravity take its innocent natural course, pulling the now fresh water out of the lake and sending all of our garbage and sewage and meat carcasses directly down south to St. Louis. No problem there, right? Was anyone from St. Louis? No? Oh, good. Haha. No apologies to them. St. Louis, of course, did not really appreciate that feat of engineering, but I will have you know it's one of the 7 engineering wonders of the United States.